I'm back, YouTube. 2 videos in one night. But I realized just a couple of minutes ago when I was doing the other video that I had not shared a part of my life with you all. And you all know that I keep it real. I let you all know everything that's going on. And I try not to keep things from you all. No, I don't have a boyfriend. But, and I want this to go on record as of February 13th, 2013. Because I just found out last weekend, that this is going to be taking place this Sunday. My pastor is ordaining me to be an elder. Yes, on this Sunday, February the 17th, 2013, yours truly will be ordained an elder. I can say a lot about this, but let me. I don't even know where really where to begin. I knew that I was going to end up, the Lord already had spoken to me years ago and told me, and probably several times since then, and told me what he wanted me to do as far as ministry. And the Lord did tell me that I was going to be a preacher. I was going to, well, he gave me the message of where the vision that where he have for me to go. And I looked around in my room that I was at the time I was living in Richmond, and I looked around and I was like, Lord, you cannot be talking about me. Y'all, I'm saying this because I had just came back to Christ. And I'm sitting like, okay, I'm in worship in my room. I'm speaking to God. I'm getting closer to God at that point. And this is years ago. Years ago. This is like 2000 and this is like 2000 and I want to say 2. No. It's 2003. November 2003. And the Lord he said, no, I'm talking to you. You've been running away and you already know what I have for you to do. And I'm sitting like, Lord, you cannot be talking about me. And this is what I tell him. I mean, because when I talk to God, I'm real with God. I don't know about you all, but I talk to him and we have this communication and this relationship where I can be real with God. I don't have to be somebody else. I don't have to pretend to be anybody else, but he knows me. He knows our heart. You don't have to go to him and use all these big words and things like that. You can just talk to him and speak to God and communicate with him because you're his child and he knows you. He knows your name. But anyway, that's another sermon. But anyway, yeah, so I knew what was coming down the road and then I told God, I said, you can't be talking about me. And I cried so bad when the Lord told me that I was going to be going into ministry. He told me that I was going to be a preacher. He told me that I was going to pastor. I was going to do things. He told me all of this, y'all. I mean, told me clearly. And you know what I said to him? I was like, God, you can't be talking to me. I was in state of denial. I said, you can't be talking to me. I said, because you cannot be speaking to me because I had a child out of wedlock. I don't know if a lot of you know this in YouTube land, but I'm about to be real with y'all. I'm about to let everything out in the open right here with y'all because I love you. You all are like family to me. And so I sit there and I'm like, God, you can't be talking to me. I had at the time, my child was like 16, 17 months old. Okay. The Lord had just delivered me out of a relationship with his father that I prayed to get me out of. For a year, I prayed for him to get me out. Probably over a year, I prayed for God to get me out of that situation. And God did get me out of that situation. And then a couple of months later, I'm giving my life to Christ. I'm coming back to Christ. I've been raised and brought up in the church, y'all. Oh my goodness. I have been raised and brought up in the church all my life. I knew right from wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I chose to go the wrong way. Well, God, I came back. I came back just like the prodigal son. I was a prodigal daughter. I came back. And I said, Lord, you can't be talking to me. I have had a child out of wedlock. I have shacked up. I was living with my son's father for me and him. He and I lived together for about 4 years. And I'm sitting like, Lord, you cannot be talking to me. I've done the worst. I've done bad things. I was I drunk. I always joke and say I was an alcoholic because I drunk. I wasn't to the point where I had to drink every day. No. But the times that I did drink, I drunk to get pleasure. I drunk to get a feeling. I drunk so much to get that buzz on. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm sitting like, Lord, there is no way that you can be saying that I am going to be a preacher. There is no way on earth that you're saying this to me. And God clearly said to me on that day, and I have it written down in one of my notebooks, the same day that God told me that I was going to be in ministry, I took the notebook, I wrote down what the Lord was telling me, not knowing that it was not knowing that, yeah, it was eventually going to happen. Because what I did is I still ran away from him. Years and years and years and years, I ran away from the calling that God had on my life. And I don't know, maybe this is blessing somebody out there today, but I ran for years, you all. Oh my goodness. I even filled my life up with doing things. And even when I came back to God, I still ran. I ran even more. Not running to do things, sin and stuff like that. Not like that. I filled my life up with singing because, I sing. I filled my life up with singing for different people and singing in a choir and singing in a group and singing in background for someone that have their own gospel CD. And I filled my life up with everything to keep me busy so that it would keep me from fornication. I don't know if you all know, but yes, I had a problem and I needed to stay focused and stay focused on God. And what I did is I kept myself busy. But because I kept myself busy, I ran. I ran away from what God had the calling, even though I was in ministry, even though I was working it, even though I was, how can I say it? Even though I was still doing the will of God, I still ran away from being a preacher. I kept saying, no, my grandfather's a preacher. My uncle's a preacher. My preachers are in my family. Singers are in my family. Musicians are in my family. And I was like, why can't I be a musician? Why can't I just sing? You know what I'm saying? I'm over the praise and worship ministry at my church. That's a ministry all by itself. But God was like, no, there is more for you to do. And I still ran and I ignored it. And people kept coming. People that didn't even know me would come up and prophesy to me, did not know me, and would tell me the exact same thing that God told me years ago. So finally, God wouldn't let me rest. Finally, God was like, look, I guess he was like, look, you need to get it together. I mean, mind you, I was saved. I was doing everything for God. I was working hard in the church. I was doing it. I wasn't going to the club. I wasn't fornicating. I wasn't doing any of that other stuff. But the thing is that I sat there and I ran away. I ignored what God had told me because I was worried about what people were going to say, because people knew that I had a child out of wedlock. If you don't know what that means I had a child and I was not married. I fornicated and my fornication caught up with me and my sin caught up with me, and I had a child at the age of 26 years old. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, you can't be talking to me. And I was like, if I say that I'm called to the ministry, nobody's going to believe me because of all of the stuff that I did in my past. But God simply said to me, do not worry about it. I'm going to pave the way. You just do what I tell you to do, and everything else will fall into place. And for some reason, God would not let me rest that summer. God would not let me rest. The next thing I know, I ain't even want to sing in the choir I was singing in anymore. The Lord kind of dealt with that with me. I was scared to leave that. But God was leading me into another area of my life. And so I had to get out the community choir, and the Lord just was dealing with me. And then I finally went to my pastor. My grandfather had put my godmother in place as pastor at the time, which she's still my pastor, because my grandfather was getting old. And when I went to my grandparents and told them that I went ahead and I told the Lord, yes, I'll do what he say, and I'm accepting my call. My grandparents said, we've been waiting because we knew you already was called. They said, we knew you were called from your mother's womb. And when my grandparents, I'm sorry, I have such a heart for my grandparents, y'all. I'm sorry. My grandparents are in their 80s. And at the time when I went to them, I think they were like 79. And they already knew. They said that the God was just waiting on me. And I believe that God had already told them. But I was just too scared of what people were going to say. But God had it so that when I became a minister, that I didn't even worry about it anymore, because I knew that God had forgiven me. And God had forgiven. Jesus died on the cross for our sins so that we may be forgiven. And I knew that God had forgiven me for all the things that I had done. And God had forgiven me for having a child out of wedlock, getting pregnant, for even fornicating and shacking up and drinking and cursing and going to the club and all those things that I was doing and running away and turning away from God. And God forgave me. And I asked him to forgive me, and he forgave me. And I'm saying all this to say that I never knew that it would happen this way because I was too scared. But if you know that God has called you, and you know that sweet, still voice, that he has said to you that you are going into ministry, that you are going to preach, that you are going to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ across the world. If you know that God has said that to you, then don't be scared. Do what God says to do. You have to do what God says to do. There's greater blessings in what God wants you to do by you being obedient. And I ran too long. And God got tired of me running. He got tired of it. And he let those things that I enjoyed, all that singing, he let it become to the point where I didn't enjoy it anymore, because there was something greater that God had for me to do. I'm sorry, I did not mean to get emotional like this. I did not mean to get emotional. I'm just trying to help someone out there. And that's what ministry is about. My YouTube is not just about hair and makeup, but it's about helping someone that is scared. Helping someone that is scared to do what God said to do. He will erase your past. All he wants you to do is do what he say. I'll continue this on the next video. There's going to be a part 2. Because I'm running out of time, and I should have did this on my laptop. Then I wouldn't have to worry about time. So I'll continue on the part 2.